about cloud computing. This is 8th semester subject. Its subject code is 802. It's come in 8th semester, and today we are going to learn about to cover introduction of cloud computing, introduction of SOA, role of SOA, guiding principle of SOA, function of web services, component of web services. As far as we know that cloud is latest technology, but it is not that much latest. Cloud has evolved through a number of phases, which include grid computing, utility computing, ASP, and software as a service. But overall concept of delivering computing resources through a global network is started in the cities by 2020. The cloud computing market is forecast to exceed $241 billion. But how did we get here, and where did all this start? Is the history of the cloud computing. Actual history of cloud computing is not that old. The first business and consumer cloud computing service website were launched in 1999. Cloud computing is tied directly with the development of the internet, business technology, and the solution of problem of how the internet can help to improve business technology. One This is one that is almost as long as the business itself, but the development that most directly influence the history of cloud computing start with the emergence of computers as provider of real business solution. Now, introduction of service-oriented architecture. So, SOA is basically service-oriented architecture. It is a state in the evolution of application development and integration. It defines a way to make software components reusable using interfaces. SOS is an architectural approach which application make use of service available in the network. In this SOA, service are provided from the applications through a network called internet. It uses common communication standard to speed up and streamline the service integration in application. Each service in SOA is a complete business function in itself. So now, SOA allows user to combine large number of facilities from existing service. SOA encompass a set of designing principles that structure system development and provide meaning for integrating components into a decentralized system. SOA-based computing packages functionality into a set of interoperable services which can be integrated into different software systems belonging to separate business domains. So basically, SOA provides an architecture and it is a stage of evolution of developing any of application, or we can say that cloud computing application. It defines the way uh, how we use components, how different components can be reusable. It is an approach in which different application uh, make use and use of networks and different applications. It provides service providers their applications over the internet. It uses common communication standard to speed up and speed down. Each SOA is a complete package of business functionality. Now, these SOA have some major roles. So there are uh, two major roles in of SOA. First is service provider, second is service consumer. In service provider, the maintainer of the service and the organizer that makes available one or more service for the other to use is service provider. Basically, provider is going to maintain the service of organization and available make all the resource available to other users, uses those all particular resources, advertise the services, provide the service, publish them, register them, together them, making contracts, specify the nature, specify the service, specifically it going to provide all the service requirement and then charge those services. This is all service provider done. Next is service consumer. The service consumer can locate the service metadata in the registry and develop the required client component and bind them with the use, or we can say that bind them with the services. Service might aggregate information and data retrieved from other service or create workflow of services to satisfy the request of given service consumer. A service consumer basically locate our need or their need, provide take and service metadata and taking registry and develop their requirement component and then going to reach, or we can say that consumer service consumer going to reach the services where we can access these services, those services information, their data retrieval from where we can get that service, how the workflow is going on, how to satisfy the consumer request. These all are come service consumer. Next is this is service oriented architecture, or we can say that SOA. So SOA basically combined with application front end services, service repository, service buses. Now the service is further divided into contract, implementation, interface, and then that implementation is going to divide in business logic and data. So service-oriented architecture basically di- divide in four parts. First is application front end, second is service, third is service repository, and fourth is service bus. Then this service, second part is further divided in three part: contract, implementation, interface. Here in contract, we are going to see about the fee related issues, requirement related issues, requirement related needs, how to fulfill their needs, consumer, what the customer want, what we are going to provide them. Every if and buts clauses are mentioned in the contract. Then we are going to the implementation part. Here we are going to implement all the requirement, all the services of consumer interface. It is simply a user interface where we are going service provider and service consumer meet their requirement. Now implementation is divided into part: business logic and data. So simply the data is that particular information based we are going to deploy SOA, or we are going to implement that particular model. And business logic is the uh, working logic of any customer. Now, so here is some guiding principle of SOA. So first is standardized service contract specified through one or more service description document. Loose coupling service are in this loose coupling service is basically designed as self-contained component, maintain relationship that minimize dependency on the other services. Abstraction: a service is completely defined by service contract and description document. They hide their logic, which is encapsulated within their implementation. Reusability, fourth point is reusability, design as a component. Service can be reused more effectively, thus reducing development time and the associated cost. Next is autonomy. Here, service have control over the logic they encapsulated, and from a service consumer point of view, there is no need to know about their implementation. Discoverability service are defined by description document that constitute supplemental metadata by which or through which we can effectively discover them. Service discovery provides an effective means for utilizing third-party resources. Composability here, using services as building blocks, sophisticated and complex operation can be implemented. Service planning and coordination provide a solid support for composing services and achieving business goals. These are some guidelining principle of SOA. So now we are going to see the advantage of SOA. So here is some advantage. First, service reusability, in which we can reuse different service to make many applications. Easy maintenance, as services are independent of each other, so we can update, modify, and uh, making changes in those services without affecting other services. So it makes maintenance easy. Platform independence allow making a complex application by combining services picked from different resources independent of the platform. Availability, it facilitates SOA facilitates easy available to anyone on request. Usability, SOA application are more reliable because it is easy to debug small services rather than huge code. Scalability, service can run on different server within an environment. This increase scalability. Next, disadvantage of SOA, high overhead, high investment, complex service management. So, in high overhead, a validation of input parameter of service is done whenever service interact. This decrease this decrease performance as it increase load and response time. Next is high investment for developing any SOA. You have to invest huge amount. Complex service management. When service interact, they exchange message to task. The number of messages may go in millions. It becomes a very hectic task to handle large number of messages. These are the disadvantage of SOA. Thank you. In my next lecture, we are going to see more about cloud computing. Good day.